Well, welcome everybody. Thanks for tuning in and listening to our preseason information here. We've got some information we're going to review a little bit from the spring informational meeting, plus some more detail going into our season. If you have any questions beyond this or you want more detail, feel free to reach out to either Coach Kyle or I about anything you hear tonight. And we also plan to be available before and after the first practice to take questions from you as well. So don't hesitate to ask. All right, so here we go. Our agenda here tonight, we've got several topics that you can expect to hear from us. We're going to talk about some COVID guidance, what that looks like for our season this year. We're going to talk about how we communicate between us and coaches and us and parents throughout the season. We'll talk about ride groups, where we'll practice, how to be ready for practices and race day. And finally, we'll get into our race schedule and have even a little information for coaches here tonight.
So the current COVID guidelines, and these are subject to change, but these are the current guidelines that are in place from the Minnesota High School Cycling League right now. So when there are situations where riders are not able to be socially distanced, they would mask up when they're within 6 feet of others, even if riders are vaccinated or coaches are vaccinated, and would plan to keep at least 12 feet of space between ride groups when we're gathering for practices. So just like last year, for those that were on the team last year, we had separate check-in areas for riders before practice, and we plan to try to keep groups separate during the practices. Riders will be required to mask up when lining up to race, and they should carry a mask with them while competing and while at practice. Again, this is subject to change based on guidance. We do expect there's probably going to be some changes since the guidelines have been changing quite rapidly recently. So for communications, as you're probably aware, TeamSnap is our official team communications app. You'll want to download that app onto your phone. There's also a desktop version that you can log into and use for sending messages, viewing the calendar. You'll want to update your availability. That's very important that riders and coaches update their availability in TeamSnap so that we know for practice planning purposes, and if we need to have additional coaches, or if in worst case scenario, a practice has to be canceled because of a lack of availability for coaches. We also have a Facebook page under Shakopee HS Mountain Bike Team. We try to have our communication be both on TeamSnap and on Facebook. Facebook's more social than the TeamSnap app is, but we generally will update both with alerts and announcements. We also use the Strava app to track rides. That's a free app. There is a subscription service that's available if you want to, but most people use just the free portion of the app. That helps for tracking rides, keeping up with your friends, seeing where people are riding, and tracking your progress throughout the season. So you can see how fast you rode a lap at Murphy-Hanrahan last year, and how are you doing this year, or how was it compared to the last time you rode. So it's a pretty cool application, and it's nice that it's free. There's also the More Trail Conditions app. We rely on that very heavily. That determines whether we can hold practice at certain trails. Those are updated rather frequently. You can set alerts so that if there's a trail conditions change, that you get a notification on your phone if Murphy-Hanrahan is closed or if it's going to be opening. So you just set that as your favorite trail, and then you can get notifications on your phone. But we'll be using that for setting practice schedules, and if we have to adjust the locations. We are in a weather dependent activity, so we will expect that there will be changes to our scheduling.
All right, our next topic is our practice locations. So we practice on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. So our Tuesday and Thursday evening practices, we try to keep closer to Shakopee if possible, just for the convenience of it. So quite often our Tuesday practices will be at the river bottoms in Bloomington. So usually we'll plan to park over at Memorial Park in Shakopee and ride to the river bottoms because that parking lot down at the river bottoms isn't big enough for us. Sometimes we'll ride from Memorial Park or downtown Shakopee over to Hawks Ridge in Chaska. And sometimes we ride south out of town on Zumbro Road, or Zumbro Avenue. That's a gravel road south of the high school. And our new trail in Shakopee that's currently being finished, it's Quarry Lake Park. We'll be expecting to ride that this season as well. So that's pretty exciting. So you have lots of options on Tuesdays around Shakopee. On Thursday, you can expect that we'll drive just a little further away, and that's why we have it at 5 p.m. instead of 4:30. We'll either go over to Murphy Hanrahan, which is by Prior Lake High School. We'll drive up to Lone Lake Park. That park is up in Minnetonka. When we practice there, we're likely going to be parking in Eden Prairie and then riding up to Minnetonka for that practice. Again, it's a parking lot size issue. And the new Monarch Trail, that's up in Victoria at Carver Park Reserve. So again, these are just a short distance outside of town. Therefore, we have them at 5 p.m. Then on Saturdays, we like to get out before the rest of the teams do. So we practice at 8 a.m. on Saturday mornings. Most teams are at 9. And we'll practice at other locations around the metro area. Everything from Theodore Worth up in Minneapolis, Lake Rebecca, which is in Rockford, Minnesota, kind of by Buffalo, Lebanon Hills, which is over in Eagan, Elm Creek is up in Champlin, and Whitetail Ridge is just over the border in River Falls, Wisconsin. And we'll even be racing at Whitetail Ridge later in the fall. So those are our main locations we're going to hit throughout the season on those days and times. As far as ride groups go, we haven't set our actual ride groups as far as which coaches and which riders are in which groups, but the general plan, though, is we have a set of groups named according to the colors of the rainbow. So red being our most experienced group, through orange, yellow, green, and blue. Blue would be our novice group, our least experienced group to riding. So we try to fit our riders with their ability groups and experience groups as long as we've got enough coaches on those nights. And of course, we try to put coaches in those groups that are comfortable with the group they've got. Quite often we'll keep our groups to 6-to-1 ratio, like 6 riders to 1 coach, or 8-to-2. That's a ratio that our league sets out for us. And we won't go over 10 if we can help it as far as riders go. And a new thing to our team this year and to our league is that we are adding an adventure component. This will be something that we do on occasion throughout the season. We'll probably have some of our riders that aren't as geared up for racing, or maybe that's not their interest, but maybe adventure and just getting out and having fun on their bike is their thing. So we've got some adventure components we're going to try and bring into our season. So that's new to us as well. All right, Coach.
All right, so some equipment requirements. Obviously, for mountain biking, we need to have a bike. It needs to be a geared bike, so no single speeds. It needs to have knobby tires. It can't be like a hybrid type or road slick tire. So they need to have some knobs and be in good condition and ready to ride over rocks and logs and be in good shape. You need to have a bicycle helmet. It should be recently produced. General rule of thumb is to have replacement helmets every 3 years. It shouldn't be a helmet from a garage sale or a hand-me-down from a parent or a sibling. Shouldn't have any cracks, and it should be properly fitting to that rider. We'll be checking riders early in the season at the first practices to make sure that their helmet fits properly for safety purposes. You need to have a small bike bag or a camelback so you can carry some supplies like a spare tube, a pump, or a CO2 inflator to inflate that spare tube if you get a flat on the trail, and a multi-tool for making adjustments. You should have a water bottle or a camelback. And if for races, you need to have a team jersey. We've had our orders have already been placed for team jerseys. We've got some pictures on the slides of our jersey in the past. That's on the lower right. And this is our new jersey for 2021. That's in the other pictures. So some skills that we're going to be working on in the groups, we'll be working with our coaches from the different ride groups. We'll have multiple coaches working on shifting, body position, so the different types of positions for riding, braking techniques, and cornering drills, and also climbing and working on obstacles. So coaches should check the Google spreadsheet on the day of the practice for specifics. We'll have a plan for each day, so coaches are aware what our plan is, and so practices can go smoothly. And if there's any questions, reach out to Coach Ullman or myself or Coach Vosberg.
All right. On that note, I think I'm going to switch over to our practice plans right now. Would you let me know when you can see that, Kyle?
Yes.
Okay, you showed up. So coaches, this is for you guys out there. I just want to show you, this is our very first practice plan. All right, July 6th, you'll see the tab down here at the bottom. You'll see several other tabs we'll have you check through. Like we'll have emergency contacts, coach contacts. We'll have all that down here. But the actual plan for the day, we ask that you guys read through what we have. This first one is probably the most extensive one of the entire season here. There's a lot of text on your screen. But it generally gets less and less as we go. But we'll ask you to check the students in, get the attendance. We'll probably have a COVID check again like last year. We'll talk about some group norms on that first day. We'll have you get to know their names. We're going to have you go through and check their bike setup on that first day. So look for this information here to kind of guide you on that first practice. And finally, we'll get to riding on that first day as well. And you'll see the color groups listed out here as to where we're going to send you. By the way, we are meeting at Memorial Park on that very first day. So you can see that these rides go out from Memorial Park. And if we ever have extra time, usually we have something listed down here at the bottom if we need to fill the last few minutes of practice back at the parking lot. Over on the far right over here, we've got a list of skills that are being shown at this weekend's skills session by Eric Robertson. This is his list of topics he's going to cover. This upper part of the list in white up here, this is all the level 1 or the foundational session if you're in that one. The level 2, the intermediate session, will be this gray colored set of topics. So anyways, we'll highlight what topics we're pulling from that day from his list, so you can kind of reference that and kind of use your knowledge that you learned this weekend at that session. All right, so back to our slideshow. Let me know when that comes through, Kyle.
It is on.
On, okay. All right, so some things you guys can do out there to be ready for practice and for races. So I'm talking to the students, the riders on the team at this point. So we're asking you to come to your practices with a clean bike, your brakes are tuned up, and your shifting has been adjusted. If you're not familiar with how to do that, you definitely want to take that into either Paul's Bikes, Eric's, Freewheel, one of the local bike shops, Michael Cycles, and get their help on that. We will be teaching you these things throughout the season, but we are counting on you to have these things in place before you come to us on the first day. Practice is difficult for your coaches if we're having to work on bikes more than normal. Some things you can do besides that, get out and ride your bike. If you haven't been riding yet, we need you to get going at this point. We don't need you to ride hard at this point. We need you to ride easy miles and to slowly build up your fitness. If you did a 10-mile ride, let's say this weekend, maybe the next week you do 12 to 15. Just slowly increase your mileage. Don't go out and kill yourself right away. All right, let's ease into this thing and get your body ready for the season. I strongly suggest you start drinking water and get your body used to that. And especially when you get to practice days on these hot days, we need you drinking a significant amount of water throughout the day. Please don't slam a bunch of water right before you come to practice. That wouldn't go well. But 50 ounces throughout the day, that is doable. For me, that's one of my big Nalgene's, or 2 smaller Nalgene's. That's always my goal every day, is to drink that much, even if I'm not riding. Please eat a light meal. We've had that become a problem for people in the past. If you come in without the energy that you get from eating a light meal, you'll be struggling in practice. So please eat light before you come. Okay, not a full meal though. Could be something as simple as granola bars or yogurt. Those are some go-to things for me. A little bit of trail mix. Those are good ones, but keep it light, whatever you do. While you're at practice, we need you to have at least one 20-ounce bottle of water on your bike. 2 would be better, but minimum of 1. Please do not show up with a plastic water bottle like a Dasani bottle or bottled water you'd buy at a store. with the screw-off cap. We need you to be able to consume water while you're riding. So you having to unscrew your bottle cap would be problematic for you while you're actually pedaling and riding your bike. So please have an actual bike water bottle on your bike and filled. And finally, once in a great while, we run into trouble. You might get a flat tire, you might break a chain. There's some other things that can happen that can kill the fun of your ride here. So please carry a spare tube, tire lever for changing a tube, a tire pump. You can get a small one for your pack, and if possible, a multi-tool as well. So we're asking all riders to have all of those items on them at every practice. All right, anything else to add to that, Coach?
Nope, that's good.
It's pretty good. Okay, let's have you take the next slide then.
So this next slide covers periodization training, which is a training cycle. You don't need to know this nor the details for it, but just be aware that this is something that we'll be focusing on with our practices. We'll be starting out with phases of training where you're building base miles and base fitness, building up the volume earlier on in the season, then working on adjusting to more intense practices as the season goes on, and then tapering for the state championship or the final races at the end of the season. So the volume goes down and intensity goes up at the end of the season. So we'll be talking about this a bit more. Don't need to know the fancy lines for it, but just know that that's when we're planning out our practices, that's what we're working on. So some key dates for the season these are all in Team Snap as our practice calendar is set right now, but we will expect there will be some adjustments based on weather. June 30th, you'll need to have your registration complete in pit zone prior to participation in any team activities, which involves payment of the league fee, waivers signed. You should have a physical that's completed. And before practice, at the first practice, you may pay the team fee. If it's coming up and you'd like to handle it beforehand, you may pay the team fee via PayPal at Shakopee mtb@gmail.com is our PayPal address. So July 6th is our first practice at Memorial Park. You'll want to come to the end of the season prepared. Your bike should be ready to go. You should have been out on some rides. You should have your shifting checked. Your bike we'll be working on fit at practice, but it certainly helps if it's your bike is set up for you at your first practice. July 23rd through 25th, we'll be on our team camping trip to Hayward, Wisconsin. That's typically, we have the returning families that go on the camping trips. If you're a new family this year and you have questions about going on the camping trip, you'll want to talk to Coach Oman or myself or Scott Younger, who's another coach on the team. So we'll be staying at Rome Base Camp in Sealy, Wisconsin. We've been to Cuyuna the last couple of years, and we're switching it up this year to try some new trails. There's a lot up in the Hayward area. And finally, October 31st, the season ends. So you can check out our practice schedules and also our race schedules in our calendar on Team Snap.
Right. I'm going to add one thing to what you said there, Coach. I got a question from a parent recently about the physical exam. We're asking that our new riders just get a physical from your family practice doctor and just if you could get a note signed or some proof that your son or daughter's in physical shape that they can join our team, that would be appreciated as we start the season. If you've been on our team in the past and you've done this already, you're okay, you're good to go. But we do ask that for the first time.
One other thing to add, Coach, that we haven't referenced yet this evening is if there are any allergies, if you have an EpiPen or an asthma inhaler, those are things that need to come to practice with riders. We have had problems in the past where riders are in the middle of practice and they're 10 miles away and they didn't bring their inhaler and they have to get a ride home. At that point, if they don't have an inhaler, we ask that practice that they don't even start. It becomes a serious problem if we have riders having medical issues during practice and they're not prepared for it. So if you have an EpiPen, you need to tell your coach in your training group that you have it, and also that you have an inhaler. And the riders need to be able to carry them themselves. If a rider's having an asthma attack, the coach shouldn't have their asthma inhaler because the coach might not be nearby to them exactly. They may be with another rider in a different part of the group. So those are things that are very important.
Yes, thanks for that, Coach. All right, our race season. If you haven't heard yet, we've had our bye-week draw just a couple of weeks ago back in May, and we know which races we're going to at this point. So notice on this slide here that what you see in blue, these are the races we are actually going to. So our first race for Shakopee isn't until September 11th and 12th up at Lake Rebecca, always a popular one with our team. We'll be hitting Whitetail Ridge and River Falls the following weekend in September. We will not be going to Game Haven in Rochester, but then in October, we'll be hitting Detroit Mountain up in Detroit Lakes. Redhead, that's a new trail as of last year up in Chisholm, up on the Iron Range. I've personally ridden that one, and I fully believe that our riders are going to love that trail if they haven't been up there yet. There's a second race at Whitetail, but we're not going to that one. And we'll finish the season with all other teams in the state at the state championship race down in Mankato. If you're new to the team, just know that the Saturday races, those are the days that our middle school ages go off. And if you're a high school racer, you'll be going off on Sunday. So you'll probably notice that there's 2 dates shown on all of these weekends. So just know it's middle school Saturday, high school on Sunday. And we're only doing those 5 blue races that you see on your screen at this time. All right, some other things that we need to know about the race season and getting geared up for that. We're not requiring anybody to race, although we'll probably encourage you to race at least one. We find some people realize that they really like it after one, but if you just don't want to do one, that's okay. But as far as registration goes, we strongly urge you to consider the Super Pass because each race is $50. And if you do 5 races, that would be $250. So a Super Pass for $150 will save you a bunch of money. They do have a hard deadline of August 1st, though. So that's our point tonight is August 1st, you need to get the Super Pass paid for by or individual races as well. Please get those taken care of all by August 1st. There will be no day of registration like in the past. The good news here is in our race season, we are going to be racing side by side or bar to bar, whatever you want to call it, mass start. We're going to get back to normal with racing this season, so that's exciting. We will not be doing the individual time trial like last year, although we loved it, but we're getting back to normal, it looks like. As of this time, there are no pre-rides scheduled on the race weekends, partly due to COVID, partly due to scheduling. We're hoping that changes by the time the race season comes around, but as of this time, we're sorry to say there's no pre-rides on those weekends. All right, some more information about the race season for coaches. When we get to the race season, we're going to ask our coaches to do warm-ups with their riders. We haven't quite had this part organized in the past as well as we'd like to, so this is something we want to improve upon. So coaches be looking for some direction from us, from Coach Kyle and I, on those weekends, how to warm up your group, how to get the kids to take nutrition correctly, and how to be on time for your call-up and knowing your number. We'll also need some help from coaches and parents for unloading and loading our trailer back up for our team. We'll have a tent, and we need to get that set up and taken down throughout the weekend. All right, so those are some tasks that we're going to need help with. All right, we have shown practice plans already, so we're going to skip that part for now. All right, to close things off, these are our contacts here for Coach Kyle and myself. Feel free to reach out to us at these emails. Tim Vosberg is going to be joining us as our skills development coach this year. He comes to us from Chaska. He'll be working with our newer riders. He has a passion for skills, and he really wants to work with those riders on those skills. And our team director is Kara Hummel. He does a lot of behind the scenes stuff like jerseys and other tasks and makes things go smoothly for us as coaches. So feel free to reach out to any of us at these emails if you have questions. Coach Kyle, do you have anything else to add tonight before we wrap it up?
No, I don't. We're looking forward to the season getting going and getting out on the trails.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody, for your time tonight. Feel free to reach us with questions. Have a good night. We'll see you on the first night. Bye-bye.